Honorable Doris Mpapane. Deputy Chief.
Honorable Co-Chairperson Sani
Deputy Chief Whip.
Ekasiso, my friend.
I can see that, my leader.
Though I'm driving home from the sitting, but I'm here.
Cindy, can you please flag the agenda on the screen?
Good afternoon, Mandlovu. Will do.
Cindy, how are you? How are you, Cindy?
That's above you guys.
Yes, he's falling.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, it's been crazy to work, but it's fine. At least we won the one day.
Cindy, can you rename the
It will be coming.
gadget of a co-chair, Lekanyane, please?
Will do, Chair.
25.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
Gonna pay attention.
Yes,
Co-chair, good evening, co-chair. How are you?
Good evening, co-chair.
I am with the secretary.
They must rename your gadget. It's like I'm speaking to the Galaxy S25. It's only the voice that shows who's speaking.
Co-chairs, I just want to indicate that I am with the secretary here, so we're sharing the gadget, the speaker and the secretary.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Sure.
Cindy, can you check if honorable members they are all present on the platform, and then are we correcting for us to start with the meeting?
Chair, we've got sufficient members on the platform to proceed with our meeting, but we will have to defer the adoption of the minutes until we have a quorum. Oh, am I muted? No.
Good evening, Co-Chair Lekanyane. Good evening, honorable members, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Auditor General of South Africa and the STP, and the leadership. I don't see my chairperson of the NCOP, Cindy will advise, but because I don't see her on the platform. Honorable members, as per the usual for a virtual meeting, I would like to remind you to please remain muted. You are further reminded to unmute yourself and switch on your camera when you are recognized to speak. I would now like to put the agenda to you for consideration and the adoption, after which we will request the committee secretary to table apologies. So I think we are I thought I unmuted myself. My apologies. I was speaking alone. Yes, I will also request that Cindy to indicate if there is any apologies on the meeting. Cindy, okay. Are you back now?
I'm back, Chair.
Okay. I would also like, once again, to welcome to this meeting of the Joint Standing Committee of Financial Management of Parliament, at which we will be briefed on Parliament's performance in the 2024 financial year, as well as the first set of outstanding issues we have committed to process in the course of this term. Having perused the annual reports, honourable members, I can at the outset congratulate Parliament on once again achieving a clean audit outcome We have, however, also noted the areas that require further attention to ensure that parliaments continue on this position trajectory. On the positive trajectory. We will look forward to receive the presentation and engaging with you on that content. With this, I would like to hand over to the Honourable Speaker of the National Assembly, Mayor Didiza, to introduce the annual report on behalf of the Executive Authority. Maybe before that, Honourable Speaker, can we just check with Cindy if there is any apology?
Good afternoon, members and guests. Yes, we have received two apologies. One from the chairperson of the NCOP who was unable to attend owing to examination, and Mr. Vessels who is attending another meeting. Those are the only apologies, Chair.
Okay. Though there are those apologies, we are cooperating for us to continue with the meeting.
Yes, Chair, we may continue.
Okay. Can you flag the agenda on the screen, please, Cindy? Okay. Can I now hand over to? No, let's start with the minutes. Can you flag the minutes of the 14th October? Can we get an move and a second for the adoption of the agenda, honourable members? Before
Honourable
we go to the
Chairperson, I move for the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Whip. Move. Can we get a seconder?
Chair,
Honorable Chair. Oh, okay.
Chair, I had put up my hand, Chair, just to second Honourable Deputy Chief Whip that we adopt the agenda.
Okay, thanks very much, Honourable Dagmore. I think let's now go to the adoption of the minutes. Can we go through the minutes as been presented? Can we check? Cindy, can we flag the minutes on the screen, please? Can we check page 1? The page 1 has got the attendance, then the committee members of the NCOP and National Assembly. Cindy, do you have them with you? Or must I take it that members have received them?
Can you not see them on the screen, Chair? Okay, you can.
I beg yours?
I was just checking to see if you could see them. I wasn't sure that you could see them.
No, I don't see them. I only see the agenda on the screen. Oh. I'm not sure if other members they see the minutes.
Okay, let me end it and share the minutes again.
Okay.
Are they there?
That's page 1 on the minutes. Page 2. On corrections, page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. That is the last page. Members, I think that is the minutes of the 14th of October 2025. Can I check the move and the second for the adoption of the minutes? Honourable Dagmore.
Sorry, yes, Chair. Thank you. I do move for the committee to adopt the minutes. Thanks.
Thank you. The seconder.
Makifeni Chair, I move to second the adoption of the minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Penny. Can I now allow Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly to introduce for the introductory remarks on Parliament's performance in 2024-2025. Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson Ndlovu, Honorable Chairperson Lekanyane, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, honorable members who are members of the Joint Standing Committee on the Financial Management of Parliament, good evening. It is indeed our pleasure to be able to table our report, which gives the status of the performance of the organization for 24-25. As honorable members will appreciate that this presentation will also cover 3 months of the 6th administration, which will be April 2024 to June 2024, when the new parliament was set up. It therefore will deal with the issues of the transition in terms of how we handled the transition as parliament and onboarding of members, as well as starting with the process of having the strategic plan for the 7th parliament. Honorable members, it would also indicate how, in terms of that transition, we've been able to address those priorities that the 6th administration had identified, infusing some of the critical matters that were identified for us in the 7th administration. It would also indicate, in terms of those areas of performance, how we have dealt with issues that would have been raised by the Auditor General in the last annual performance, particularly on some of those issues that the Auditor General would have flagged. Some of those related on how to strengthen our oversight in terms of the rebuild program with our implementing agency. The other issue related to strengthening our control arising on the matter of the membership of the Commonwealth and what would have happened then. So in the reporting, we will articulate how we had dealt with those matters. The other issues that we will also address in dealing with the issue of the performance during the year under review would actually relate to how, as the new administration, even in the transition, we've been able to undertake our work of oversight as well as accountability. So you will see in the report that we have also reflected on the number of activities that we have done in terms of the oversight work by our committees, some of the legislation that we have started to deal with, some of which would have not been completed by the 6th administration, but were revived in the 7th administration, would also reflect on how we have also started to infuse some of the matters that members have reflected on, particularly the issues of petitions. And we will deal with issues of management of our resources, both human as well as financial resources as Parliament. And I would like to say, as you have indicated, Chair, we are happy that again in this financial year, which we are reporting on 24-25, we have been able to achieve a clean audit. We'll continue to do our best are given to the institution for us to do our work is indeed managed judiciously as it is supposed to happen. That would be my opening remarks, Chair, in this regard, and I will give it back to you for the chairperson of the NCOP, and thereafter, through you, Chair, we will then go to the detail where our accounting officer will then take us through on that performance report. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thanks very much, Honourable Speaker. I thought this could be the time for the parties that are on the committees, honourable members, to appreciate the clean audit that we now, the Honourable Speaker is speaking about. Maybe for only 5 minutes, I can allow the honourable members, those who want to just indicate their appreciations to the executive authority and the STP. Honourable Van Ryan.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Co-Chairperson. Very good evening to the leadership of Parliament, Honourable Chokodiliza, as well as Honourable and of course, very good evening to the members of the committee and officials of Parliament who are supporting the committee. Chair, I will suggest a different approach. Isn't it the agenda says the AG will present his findings or his report according to the agenda that you shared earlier. And then from there, we will get the Secretary of Parliament giving the report from the Parliament. Then we can take, or maybe we can discuss everything after the AG's report and allow the STP to come in. I'm not sure if that's not the normal procedure. I thought that should be. And of course, in our contribution, we definitely indicate our position as far as the clean audit matter is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Van Ryan. As long as you are indicating, I only like the latter part to say in your last, as you're really closing your comment, then will be indicating, because I can at the same time use my own discretion, maybe allow members to say something around that. But I believe that it's not a trace match on that. If there is honourable members feel that we should just allow the AG and then at the end in our comment and the discussions, parties will be able to indicate whatever they want to indicate. Remember, I was taking it from the presentation, the remark from the Honourable Speaker. But I don't think there is a trace match. Can we now allow the Auditor General of South Africa to brief the Committee of Parliament? I'm not sure, Memulelega.
Yeah, I'm sure, Adam. So yeah, I am, Honourable Chair. So good afternoon, first of all, co-chairs, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Chair of the NCOP, also Secretary of Parliament and the leadership of Parliament and then of the HSA. What an honour is it for us to present then the audit outcomes of Parliament for the 24-25 year. I know Zini will be assisting with the presentation to present the slides to us, but I know also the slides has been shared with the honourable members, co-chair. So I'm going to, without further ado, I am going to start the presentation so that we don't delay the processes. So immediately then going over to the first slide of the presentation, and important for us looking at what we want to drive in terms of our culture shift strategy. And I think just sitting back, which is on the first slide, we would like to make sure that institutions are are characterized by these key principles: performance, accountability, transparency, institutional integrity. And I think specifically for the honorable members, part of this call and a key role and responsibility that they've actually have when it comes to the performance information, making sure that based on the legislated mandate, is Parliament delivering according to the legislated mandate, linking to the performance plan that they've got to deliver. And I think at the center of it, wanting them to make an impact on the lives of citizens. So overall, when we want to work towards what is a key institution look like, this is what it should be characterized by looking at the institution. And most importantly, if we go to the last one, which is on institutional integrity, it speaks about there needs to be a control environment. We know if there's a good control environment, there's a good system of internal control. And hence we're sitting in the position where it comes with the outcome of Parliament that I will go in a bit further. But what do we like about this one? It speaks also about how do we ensure consistently there's ethical behavior within institutions and making sure the best interest of the institutions is put first. The next slide deals with the accountability ecosystem, and I'm sure this slide has been presented throughout by the AG, but important for us is this important role that Parliament and all the legislatures are playing in terms of their role of oversight that they've got, and in terms of lawmaking. So as they play such a critical role that has an impact on the entire government, and a key role player in setting the tone, both from a national, provincial, and then from a local government perspective, that all of that ultimately falls under the umbrella of Parliament and then legislatures. And important enough, as the AGSA, we do believe through the findings that we give, we will be able to influence then for corrective action to drive the culture shift strategy, and also making sure in instances where adherence is not there to the rule of law, we do use our expanded mandate in terms of our Public Audit Act. So if I can move over to the next slide, which we always share with this committee specifically, the overall audit outcomes of the entire legislature sector, as Parliament itself has a key role and responsibility in the oversight that they play over the legislative sector. So you would notice, honourable co-chairs, we had a slight regression compared to the prior year in the audit outcome for the legislatures, where in the prior year we only had Eastern Cape that had an unqualified audit opinion, but in the current year we've also got Limpopo that regress, mainly due to two areas of concern on the quality of the financial statements they've submitted and also the quality of the performance information they submitted. But we always share this because knowing that from a Parliament and legislative perspective, important oversight role that they do play, it's important also that they then achieve clean audit outcomes. And we do believe it's something in the next cycle that they are able to address. But we thought just important that we share this. But let's go immediately into the next slide that deals specifically with the audit outcomes of Parliament that is within the annual report. And I will be referring members then, the honourable members, to page 109 of the annual report that deals specifically with our audit report on page 109. And the first paragraph, so when we audit, there is three areas that we audit. Is the opinion that we give on the financial statements, the conclusion that we give on the compliance to laws and regulations, and the conclusion that we give specifically in the area of performance information as part of our audit report. So for the year under review for 24-25 for Parliament, and if we go to paragraph 2 of that report on page 109, it indicates Parliament have received an unqualified audit. So that is the first step in achieving the clean audit. The second part that we look at the quality of the of the performance information, where we specifically look at is the targets and indicators, is it consistent? Can it be measured? And secondly, can we actually reliably confirm the information for audit purposes. So for the year under review, we specifically looked at legislation and oversight to that specific program, and then we have indicated there was no material findings that has been identified in that area. So second tick in the box. The third one is relating to key compliance to laws and regulations, and this is specifically relating to FAMPLA, that we will look at specific financial non-compliance to these laws and regulations. And for the year under review, we haven't identified any material findings reported in the audit report for Parliament, and that is contained in paragraph 22 of the report. So meaning, honourable co-chairs and honourable members, that Parliament then receives an unqualified report with no finding that equals a clean audit outcome. But important also, we have also emphasized as an emphasis of matter, and I must indicate these emphasis of matters does have no impact on the audit outcomes, because it's already information that Parliament has disclosed in their own financial statements. And the reason why we are emphasizing these two matters, because of the quantum of the value is quite material in nature. And the first one that we're highlighting in our audit report is about the related party between Parliament and DBSA, and the transactions around that. There is appropriate agreements in place for that, but important we thought we highlight because it's quite a substantial amount. And the second part that we also highlight in paragraph 38 of the financial statements, there's a disclosure note on the commitments, and also quite a substantial amount for the Parliament rebuild projects that has been committed relating to these specific contracts. So that is something in our audit report that we have highlighted. The other part that we want to highlight that is included in the financial statements that is currently included is just highlighting, which is on the next slide, is the irregular expenditure and the fruitless and wasteful expenditure for the year under review. And we note from these expenditure, when it comes to the irregular expenditure, there's been a marginal increase from last year to the current year, and it's specifically related to the approvals of extension of contracts that is disclosed in the financial statements as indicated. And the second part on the fruitless and wasteful expenditure as disclosed in the note to the financial statements of Parliament, also relating to the fraudulent payments of the bank accounts that we've also highlighted in the previous year. But we thought important that we highlight this, but it's already disclosed in the financial statements of Parliament. Before I get to the call to action, the last slide I will deal with is just from a financial statement information, specifically when it comes to the financial health of Parliament, that we wanted to highlight just key ratio. There's nothing really alarming sitting in the information that is disclosed relating to the expenditure management and the revenue management, and then from an asset and liability management. I think the key thing we wanted to highlight, we noticed there's a decrease in the surplus from the current year to the prior year, meaning of course there's more expenditure that has been paid, and then Parliament sitting with a favourable cash balance of 1.3 billion for the current year. That's a good indication. The next slide then deals with the specific call to action that we have indicated for the leadership of Parliament of things that they must give attention to. So the first part of it deals specifically when it comes to the financial statements and the quality of the financial statements and the role in the preparation of these financial statements, and also the role that the internal audit unit can play to review these financial statements. So that was the first call to action that we've discussed with the leadership. The second one deals specifically with the DBSA project and the implementation of this project. So the call to action is to make sure that there's appropriate oversight of the project, and also the internal audit unit playing a vital role in making sure there's appropriate assurance provided and that the government processes is in place. And then we've also indicated in terms of the implementation plan that oversight then should be given of this implementation plan, which is being tracked by this committee. The third one that we've highlighted in terms of the call to action specifically because from a parliament perspective, they've got oversight of the legislatures. And first of all, we're indicating for their own system of predetermined objectives and compliance to laws and regulation, there should be proper processes in place. But secondly, also when it comes to the legislative sector, parliament and legislature sector, overall framework for performance information, because currently there's not an approved framework in place. So when we basically audit, we don't necessarily audit against the approved framework. So a lot of the work that we do in the legislature and parliament is more looking at the reliability of their performance information. The second call to action that we've got that impacts the entire sector is related to supply chain management, specifically making sure that the policies and processes for supply chain management is appropriately aligned, because Parliament having their own FAMPLA basically and can basically develop their own regulations and policies and processes. So a lot of times there's sometimes gaps, so we say there should be clear alignment in terms of the entire legislature sector. So that was a call to action from a parliamentary perspective that we have given. The last slide, honourable co-chairs and honourable members and speaker and chair of the NCOP that I will be dealing with, is a specific call to action that we highlighted specifically for this joint standing committee. And the first one is the role that you already play in terms of the oversight over the DBSA implementation plan, which you are monitoring in that regard. So that is one of the key things that we highlighted in that instances. Then the other part was relating specifically the role that you play when the annual performance plan is then submitted for approval, and making sure that from that perspective there's a proper mechanism in terms of then compliance with all of the requirements when these reports are then submitted for your review. Then the last part is also just a call to action, because we know that from the internal audit unit and the audit committee can then play a fundamental role to provide this committee specific assurance when it comes to the implementation of the implementation plans, and their oversight role that they can play in terms of making sure that these plans, what was committed, is implemented, and providing the independent assurance for the committee when report backs comes via the DBSA for the implementation of these plans. So that, honourable co-chairs, is the call to action. So I'm basically at the end of my presentation, but we're open for any comments or questions. But handing back to you, honourable co-chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, AG. And members, I think that was the presentation that has been circulated on through the emails. I think Ms. Sharon was able to unpack the annual, was able to brief the committee on the performance of Parliament of the on 2024-2025 financial year report. Can I now hand over to STP for him to brief the committee? STP?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson.
I thought I'm not audible.
Can you hear me, Chairperson?
Yes, I can. I thought I was not audible on my side.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson and co-chairperson of the Joint Standing Committee, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Madam Speaker, and members of the committee. I'm not sure, Madam Speaker raised earlier on if Chairperson is available. Perhaps she may want to say something before I start.
You mean the chairperson of the NCOP?
Yes, yes.
No, she's not in the meeting. There's an apology that has been provided to the meeting.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity for us to present this statement of the annual performance report, both for the institutional performance as well as financial performance of the organization. We do so on behalf of the Executive Authority of Parliament as the parliamentary administration. Chairperson, our presentation covers key focus areas, which in terms of the just hold on, Chairperson. Cindy, I believe you are operating from your side. If you can just run the slideshow. Thank you very much, Chairperson. So we will be covering the areas as outlined, focusing on the business of Parliament, and that will be broken down into the annual performance plan institutionally, and then followed by the governance report, of which AG touched on 50% of it. And then we will also cover the human capital management activities component, plus the audited annual financial statements. Next slide. In terms of the legislative requirements, Chairperson, this report is premised on the provisions of Section 55 that requires that we must prepare an annual report that covers the institutional component. And then the second part in Section 56, we prepare the annual financial statements. Next slide. Essentially, this covers the anchoring of all what we do in Parliament in terms of the vision of Parliament, the mission, and the values that underpin the work of Parliament. Next slide. On the actual business of Parliament, our report premises itself on the context of how in 2024, 2025, this institution has operated under. At a global level, it takes place within a number of shifts that are taking place in many institutions, thereby affecting many parliaments where there is a lot of calls for accountability and transparency, including issues of transformation that shapes many institutions. But it also takes place in a context of rapid shifts that affect many institutions. We also transitioned from the 6th Parliament immediately after May 2024 that ushered in the 7th Parliament. And that took place in Q1 of the current financial year, as Madam Speaker has indicated. And that immediately triggered us to start doing what we call foundational work of Parliament. That meant inaugurating a new Parliament in June 2024, followed immediately by establishment of governance structures of Parliament, the portfolio and select committees, followed immediately with the leadership structures of those committees and induction of members. And immediately after that, a thoroughgoing consultation for the preparation of the 7th Parliament. So that's what occupied largely Q1 of our financial year. And immediately between July, August, and September, we focus on a detailed consultation between the two houses in identifying the 7th Parliament priorities. That gave rise to 4 main priorities, amongst others: strengthening the oversight of Parliament. What are the issues we need to focus on, as well as legislative processes and public involvement, where this area continues to characterize weaknesses that Parliament gets exposed on in respect of the bills that we pass. And one dimension that we receive criticism considerable in our courts is meaningful and adequate participation of our lawmaking process. So that has now been lifted to be the main priority for improvement. The issue of public office appointments has also been raised, especially on issues of consistency and common norms and approaches across all of those. The improvement in international relations in terms of engagement has also been outlined as a main priorities, including capacity building. In summary, we are just highlighting some of the core activities under each of the houses, starting with the National Assembly, where in the different elements of performing oversight, starting with the oral questions, and those that have been executed during the year under review, 572 questions have been asked, and written questions, above 3,300 written questions were submitted, of which responses received constitute 86.4%, responses as at end of March 2025, and almost 50% in terms of a response rate on the written question. It's an area of improvement that shows lagging on the response part on the side of the executive when it comes to responding to written question. To the contrary, at the level of the NCOP, the number of questions asked and the number of questions submitted in writing, there was 100% response at the level of NCOP, and also an accompanying 92.9% on the response for the written question. This is an area of work that the Rules Subcommittee is seized with in terms of refinement to ensure that clarity speaks to issues of adequacy. When will a question asked be regarded as having been adequate and properly responded to? So that work, Rules Committee is seized, including any other measures that Parliament would like to implement to strengthen accountability, especially on response rate on the executive. The issues of the work of committees beyond oral questions, committees also undertook a lot of key activities, including such areas as illegal mining in Gauteng as a focus areas, flood disasters in many provinces, Eastern Cape, Free State, KwaZulu-Natal in particular, that faced these last year. Our committees were hard at work focusing on these. The State of Road Accident Fund continued from last year and more in depth this year in terms of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, as well as visitation to the energy priority area of ESCOM rebuilt environment. Those are just some of the work of our committees. Also, in terms of the parliamentary oversight, the safeguarding of public interest has also been looked at in terms of ensuring that accountability is maximized. Next slide. On the National Assembly, focus areas on the dimension of lawmaking in particular, there's been areas where a number of bills, both in the NA and NCOP, have been focused at during the year under review. There were about 14 debates on bills over the reporting period, focusing on such major areas, appropriation bill, as well as procurement and public service commission bill, older persons amendment bill, as well as the fiscal management and governance issues, in particular to the NDP. At the level of NCOP, 35 bills were considered during the year under review, of which 10 of those were Section 75 bills, and 15 of those Section 76 bills and Section 77 bills. Some of the prominent bills that were passed during the year under review in NCOP is the Upstream Petroleum Resources Development Bill, the Climate Change Bill, National Small Enterprise Amendment Bill, the Housing Consumer Protection Bill, and some of those were looked at for strengthening the work of the institution of Parliament. Committees also played a major role in terms of shaping legislation, looking at public hearings, stakeholder engagement, and during this period, 23 bills were under consideration by committees of NA, whilst 5 was NCOP. And these committees, in addition to that, they also finalized 4 bills in the NA and 20 bills in the NCOP around the work of fiscal alignment. Next slide. Again, at the level of the NCOP and the NA, we also looked at the dimension of public participation, in particular, the aspect of petitions. The NA considered 39 petitions during the year under review, and it processed them to different areas, either at committee level or various ministries, and others that were responded to at the level of the executive authority. And they range from a number of areas: public service pension redress, corruption in state-owned enterprises, sector-specific gaps in legislation, and housing and service delivery challenges, including staff, learners rather, that complained about issues of stipends and so on. So NA processed all of those. The NCOP received 2 of those petitions. They pertain to the Intellectual Property Laws Amendment Act and also how to protect historically disadvantaged groups, disaster where there were sinkholes. The need to declare it as a national disaster was also a consideration around that. So both petitions, again, were fully processed and addressed to the relevant parliamentary structures. The committees of Parliament also considered 35 public hearings. Those that were sent to committees, they conducted 35 public hearings in respect of processing those, and they dealt with the laws that we have highlighted earlier on. Next slide. At the level of cooperative governance, which is a dimension dealt with largely by the National Council of Provinces, the triggers and enablers around that is the Section 106 notices that pertain to governance and management at municipalities. So in that case, 5 municipalities were considered in terms of notices at the NCOP, and those are the municipalities that were processed, and some of them were assessed in terms of early warning indicators for the NCOP to consider monitoring developments prior to full-scale intervention. Section 139 interventions as empowered by the Constitution. Again, in respect of this, the NCOP also dealt with about 7 municipalities where there's been Section 1391B of intervention in municipalities. And these are the municipalities that largely fell under KZN in terms of the intervention, about 7. Next slide. On the area of focus, international relations, core business, again, our parliament participated in a number of areas, such areas as participation at the level of the World Urban Forum, the SDGs in particular, and some of our committees, they engage in dialogues and policy formulation around participation in the various COPs, COP 27 or COP 20 something. We have a consistent participation on issues of international dialogue on climate change. Water and sanitation, our committee for water sanitation visited Maseru around inspection of the water security for the country, as well as cross-border water resource management. Parliament also considered a number of agreements, and those agreements speaks to a number of protocols on African Charter, protocols on amendment on conventional offenses, and other acts in terms of Luxembourg Protocol on the Convention on International Interests, the revised agreements on the regional cooperative agreements on research and development. Those are just but some of the agreements that Parliament focused on. At the level of detailed performance, we are reporting, honorable members, the overall performance of Parliament in terms of some of the strategic shifts that underpin the performance we are reporting on. We have anchored that around one of the critical projects we are focusing on, that is the restoration of Parliament, the data and information management of Parliament that would lay the foundation for improved data management, for evidence-based decision-making and more impactful oversight. We are making investment on that. The issue of organizational redesign of Parliament to bring in both culture shift as well as alignment to the focus of the core business, that work continued during the year under review, and we are reporting progress around that. The continuation of the work of the Sixth Parliament, especially on the state capture recommendation, we are reporting progress on that. The preparation for the seventh term that I've already highlighted, that enables for us to have a smooth transition to where we are. Petitions and automation, we will also be reporting. So these are just executive summary of what is essentially contained in the main report. During the year under review, honorable members, we are reporting that we have met 8 of the targets that we had. We had total of 10 targets, of which 8 have been fully met. Those that have not been met, they have been partially met, but we are reporting them as not met in the strictest technical sense. What does that mean? It means the restoration of parliamentary buildings is multi-year. So during the year under review, there were certain commitments, but other commitments will be delivered in subsequent years, as well as issues of org redesign. We have certain steps committed, others continues in subsequent years. And then the one on improved digital tools and information, we are reporting a full completion of those targets, and the member satisfaction, level satisfaction, again, full attainment of the goal. So essentially, out of the 4 targets, 2 were met and 2 were not met. And we will highlight the reasons for non-meeting of those 2. These are some of the remedial actions around restoration. There were a number of areas. So instead of achieving 100% of what was a target for the year under review, we are reporting that we achieved about 80% of that target. And the areas where we have not, there were delays in the approval for the old assembly. On the areas of the designs, there were delays, and those delays then impact on ability to start going to call for proposals and so on. So as at end of March, some of the requirements for us to get early approvals from heritage agencies, they were received very late at that time. The technical designs then become impacted, as well as the knock-on impact on procurement delay and the delay on the documentation that respond to that. We have now put in place remedial actions, which already all of these issues that were experienced as at end of March last year have now been fully resolved in line with the remedial plans. Such issues like expedited design facilitation and bringing forward the demolition contract, which has now been done, the procurement process initiation, as well as continued engagement with the authorities that approve various stages. So those 2 issues have been attended now as part of the remedial measures. At the level of org redesign, again, we report it technically as unachieved because we set a target of implementation of 100% for phase 1. However, we achieved 90.35 implementation of that phase, and then we reported it as technically not fully achieved. So all stages that were supposed to be done, data analysis, target operating model, are those areas where 2 of those could not be done. And we have now revised those timelines to make sure that they would now be achieved by the end of this financial year, and even before the start of the last quarter of the financial year. Next slide. That's program 1 performance in terms of us reporting 50%. On program 2, we are reporting 100% on core business. All the areas that were highlighted, that is the oversight priority plan, recommendations that were a target for that year for state capture were implemented. Committee planning framework was completed. Country outcome indicator dashboard was implemented and completed. Impact assessment framework for bills has also been completed. The online petition monitoring and tracking system was also completed. So that's the overall report for program 2 at a high level. The governance report, AG has covered 50% in terms of the continuation of our positive work as Parliament and the durability of our internal control systems, which is something that we are able to jealously guard as the administration. And as a result, honorable members will see that right across all heat map areas of accountability and focusing, we are relatively positive on a year-to-year comparison, which reflects a sustained vigilance on those areas. That report also enjoyed the acknowledgement of the audit committee that is an assurer for Parliament prior to the report being submitted to Auditor General as well as post-Auditor General. And their report is also attached in the next slide to this area. In terms of the focus of the audit committee, next slide. So that's the report I've already spoken on the audit committee. And then in the area of the focus for the audit committee, may I request you just go back one slide? Thank you very much. So the report provides various insights on the focus areas of the work of the audit committee and what has it focused on, and also monitoring the quality of our in-year report, the quality of our performance, as well as the quality of our audited financial statement. In the prior year implementation status of the issues that would have been raised in the previous management report, honorable members, we are reporting how we have implemented those areas. And 3 of those are in progress of continued implementation, where there will be matters where we are still indicating, as disclosed in note 31, issues of irregular expenditure, the disclosures, and our investigations are in progress as required by the governance assurance framework of Parliament. The investigation on recovery of losses, again, it's a matter that is a focus area, including the need for us to have the physical access system for the server room, in terms of looking at how we are implementing that, plus a disaster site recovery, that in the event we were to suffer, we would need to have an off-site arrangement. Those areas are a current focus of our work. And in the subsequent slide, after this, honorable members, we are reporting on the implementation of those areas where we said it is in progress and what is the nature of the matter. So in the prior year, there was an identification that Parliament incurred cost in excess of the amount initially agreed. And that instance was then required to be investigated in terms of SCM, the relevant requirements, and our governance assurance framework requires that the relevant committee must look at the matter and look at post-facto approval with a recommendation for condonation, and also to prevent future recurrence of those matters. So the Financial Management Office, Department of Finance of Parliament, and also to ensure better planning and raise awareness regarding procurement and contract management processes and procedure. That is the work as per the recommendation and is currently under implementation to make sure that there's guidelines to assist management in dealing with irregular expenditure. Next slide. The issue of the account that Parliament paid money, honorable members, you will recall that at various joint standing committee, this is a matter that has already been disclosed in the prior year's audit, where we paid money for a subscription, an amount of about 1.1 million. We paid to the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, of which Parliament is a member. And we realized that after payment, they came back to us and said they have not yet received money, whereas Parliament has paid the money. And upon investigation, it was found that the account, in fact, was altered and the payment has gone to a wrong account and not the actual account of that body. So they brought to our attention that it was a wrong account we used, even though it bore all their details as the body. So we immediately acted on the matter, reported to law enforcement agencies in terms of SAPS as required in terms of the law, and the matter is still under investigation on their side. Next slide. In terms of disaster recovery not in place, our CIO in terms of IT department, they are already seized with the matter, looking at ensuring that we receive disaster recovery services to ensure that data is stored to alternative sources in the event we were to suffer a disaster again. So we did accept that there's a risk like that, but we have continued to review the risk to make sure that we put in place remedial measures, including migrating our work to full cloud, and also to ensure that all systems that are critical for backup are being done in such a way that we mitigate that risk. So we will also look at also ensuring that sufficient funding is also budgeted for to make sure that we fully migrate to that. So it is work in progress at the level of implementation. Next slide. On the current audit, honorable members, in terms of the current audit that we are reporting on, how many issues were raised and how far we are on the status of the resolution of those issues. We had about 13 areas that were raised for us to maintain vigilance on, of which to date we have closed about 7, meaning implemented those, and those that are in progress are about 6. And we envisage that by end of March, we would have closed those remedial action as well. Next slide. These are just the issues that constitute that 13 in terms of improving the management of declarations by members as well as staff. We have already addressed that matter. The cash flow statement, the misstatement that was highlighted, we have also closed that matter already. The leave liability, it's in progress. The disclosure note 38 on commitments and appreciation disclosure, we have already addressed that. The incorrect costing of some assets and depreciation is still in progress. That is under regularity audit finding. Under information systems audit, there were the rest of the items, the 6 areas, the issues of late approval of the policy, where they indicated that we need to ensure that all our policies are approved and updated. In progress is where we are on that item. The issue of fire extinguishers, the servicing of all of those, that has been addressed. The weaknesses to data center services, again, the matter has been addressed. And the weaknesses in the incorrect access granted to a user, there was a detected issue around that. Again, it has been swiftly addressed. The disaster recovery site, I indicated, it's in progress, plus data retention for logical access. Again, it's in progress. The issues where there would have been furniture obstructing things in the UPS room, the strong room, that has been addressed. The issues around standard operating procedures, again, it has been addressed. So we have addressed about 60% of the issues to date after the audit, and the rest we're confident by end of March we'll be able to have closed all the issues raised from a management point of view. Under HR, honorable members, during the year under review, these are some of the areas we have focused on to make sure that we implement a comprehensive human capital development strategy. And 4 areas that we focused on during the reporting period was around talent management, improvement around those areas, the learning and development area, the employee wellness, as well as employee relations. And out of all these areas, to also improve capacity of employees of Parliament. Next slide. In this area, we also undertake regularly culture survey feedback to look at the pulse of the organization. And these are some of the favorable reports we receive from employees, and also areas where we are not yet strong on, like cross-divisional collaboration, where we still sit at 47%, and building Parliament as a learning organization, constantly producing knowledge, sharing that knowledge, and also working across path. It's an area that, as part of the change management agenda from a culture, we will be improving. Other areas, relatively, we get positive appreciation in terms of teams that are working, confirmation of staff engagement in divisions, Parliament's core values, and employees being proud to be part of this organization. So it's part of us tracking the culture and the mood in the organization. Next slide. Around institutional training, these are areas where, as part of building capabilities, we focus on regular training for employees. And these are some of the training areas that we have made intervention on, as well as the number of employees that have been in attendance around those. So a total of 836 employees participated in those areas out of the total of 1,200 employees. Next slide. Under talent acquisition, areas that, honorable members, as we started the 7th Parliament, you have raised the need for us to expedite the urgent filling of positions for mission critical areas, amongst others. That is committees, that is researchers, language practitioners, as well as committee secretariat. So we have made during the year under review 92 employees, of which in the breakdown of that total, 64 were external and 28 were internal growth employees. And these are the various categories where those categories. In the skilled category, which is where you will get your new employees in the units that are mission critical, as well as professional level, constitute the bulk of that area. Almost 78 of that total is employees in the mission critical areas. And that constitutes almost about 80%, if not more, for the category that is mission critical. Next slide. The workplace harmony, in terms of engagement with labor, we still enjoy relatively a harmonious working environment around that. There are, however, areas where we are zooming in, where there are areas where we still need to create harmonious relations in terms of conditions of service and so on, especially in the security area of parliamentary security alignment, as well as achieving common set of conditions of service for those areas. The delivery of capacity building and skills development is one of those areas we are focusing on to cover all areas that must create a workplace free of problems in terms of harassment, prevention, and also harmony in the employment relations. Next slide. On the financial statements, again, these are the areas in detail that I would like the acting CFO to quickly talk through the summary of the areas of our financial performance during the year under review. Through you, Chairperson.
Okay, acting CFO.
Is this on? Oh. Thank you, Chairperson, Honorable Speaker, honorable members of the committee, STP, and management of Parliament. I'll take you through the financial performance for the 2024-25 financial year. So when we're looking at the budget, we had a budget of 4.7 billion and the spending was 3.2 billion and there was underspending of 1.4 billion. So when you're looking at the compensation of employees, the underspending was 7%. Compensation of members, the underspending was 3%. Goods and services was 33%. Transfers to political parties, 0%. And acquisition of property, plant and equipment, we spent 193 million and the underspending percentage-wise was 85%. Next slide, please. So this is the bar chart performance as well, just showing the budget was 1.4 for compensation and we spent 1.3 billion. Compensation of members, the budget was 713 million and we spent 692 million. Goods and services, the budget was 732 million and we spent 490 million of the budget. Transfers to political parties, budget was 571 million and we spent 569 million. And then acquisition of property, plant and equipment, assets, the budget was 1.2 billion and we spent 193 million. Next slide, please. So on this slide, we're explaining the reasons for underspending. 7% underspending on compensation of employees was mainly due to termination that happened during the year, and then delays in filling vacancies, of which around October, Human Capital appointed the talent acquisition team to assist with the fast-tracking the filling of positions, as STP outlined when he reported on filling of vacancies. So hence that variance of 7%. The underspent funds were utilized in the 2025-26 as part of retained earnings that was allocated in the budget. Compensation of members, the underspending was 3%. And then mainly the monies that we received, we paid loss of office gratuity and exit gratuities for members that lost the offices. So the amount was surrendered to National Revenue Fund because in terms of Section 23(4), if we overspend, they reimburse us. If we underspend, we have to surrender the amount. So the 21 million, we surrendered it. And then goods and services, the underspending of 33% is mainly due to delays that were experienced implementation of the restoration and rebuilding project because there was amount allocated for goods and services of 105 in that budget. The amount is reallocated in the following year in the rebuilding. There were also delays in setting up of committees due to the establishment of 7 Parliament, which had contributed in the underspending on goods and services. The amount assisted in the 2025-26 financial year in augmenting the shortfall from the budget that was received from National Treasury. Then political parties, the amount that we get from National Treasury, we allocate fully to the political parties. So the spending is at 100% there. Property, plant and equipment, as it was indicated in the performance information, the delays that were experienced in the rebuilding. So those contributed in the underspending of the 85%. Also, the allocation by National Treasury is not aligned to the projections on the project. It was allocation based on what was committed by the minister. So those funds will be spent in the 2025-26 financial year fully in terms of the projections. Then the financial position overview. In the first pie chart, we are depicting a picture where PAMED is included, which is medical aid contribution liability. for former members of parliament and provincial legislatures. And then in the second pie, we are excluding the permit to show how would we look like if we didn't have the liability of the medical aid for former members of parliament and provincial legislatures. So parliament in the first pie chart had a net asset of 255 million due to cash and cash equivalents relating to amount that was received for the rebuilding and not utilized by year end. There have been engagements with National Treasury, numerous engagements regarding the treatment of this contribution that takes from the baseline of parliament. Because in this year we paid 91 million towards the medical contributions of former members of parliament and provincial legislatures. And there were 1,118 members that we contributed for as at year end, if we accumulate the total. And in the prior year, 967, you can see that the numbers are increasing. So as the liability is increasing and the contributions that we pay for. So there have been engagements with National Treasury. In the last engagements with National Treasury, there is positivity. We are agreeing that this should be treated as a direct charge against the National Revenue Fund so that it doesn't take from the baseline of parliament. We can easily pressure from the baseline and this be treated as a direct charge. The liability will still be there in the books of parliament. However, funding that liability will be a direct charge, not impacting the core business of parliament budget. So in the next pie chart, we are showing that if we were to exclude the permit liability, parliament will be net assets of 1.6 billion. Also included in these liabilities, we've got a liability of 101 million and 96 million for members' loss of office gratuity and the exit gratuity. Those two are paid from the direct charge from the budget of salaries of members. So they don't impact the baseline, but in terms of the liability, we are liable, so it has to be disclosed in the financial statements. Also at year end, we also had a liability of 35.1 million for travel benefits of former members and ministers, or former ministers. That benefit we pay from the baseline of parliament. The amount we paid in the financial year was 6.7 million, and in the prior year was 5.2 million. Next slide, please. And then here we are analyzing the non-current liabilities that contributes significantly to the financial performance of parliament. The first one is the one medical aid for former members of parliament I just outlined. The employee benefit relates to post-medical benefit for all members, for all former members and pensioners who belong to parliament. Medical aid, parliament and provincial legislatures. The increase is due to increase in the number of young members after the elections, those who lost the offices, and also the actuarial assumptions that are used in determining the future liability that will be liable for. Loss of office gratuity is for eligible members who have served 5 or more years and whose term of office, who have served 5 years or more and are entitled to a once-off gratuity equal to 4 months pensionable salary for every 5 years completed. Then it's calculated at 60% of the gazetted remuneration. The increase of 19% is due to increase in years of service of the members as the actuaries were calculating. Exit gratuity is payable to eligible members who were members of the political office bearers pension fund and who exit the funds as a consequence of general elections 2029. So this benefit is a rise about change of rules of the pension. So those who were negatively affected by the rules are paid the difference. So that difference is determined and is payable by parliament. It's paid where members exit. So this liability is reducing as members are leaving. So it's going to go down significantly, be finished at some point. Next slide, please. Post-travel benefits. Those are the travel benefits that are provided for former members and the executive and their spouses. Members are currently entitled to 12 single ticket journeys for a period of 5 years maximum. And then after that, then members, it's not perpetual, it's for 5 years. If you serve 5 years, you get the 12 single ticket journey. So this one is funded also from the baseline of Parliament. And then long service hours, these are for employees who are rewarded for being loyal to the employer. And then the liability is increasing due to the increase in the years of service the employees have service Parliament. Next slide, please. The statutory receivable, we had a 71 million in the prior year and 0 in the current year. Here, because in that year, we spent more than what we got from National Treasury, from the NRF fund. So Treasury owed Parliament and the amount was received, that 71 million. In the current year, we owe National Treasury 21 million. Hence, now we've got 0. That amount is shown as a statutory payable in the next slide. Prepayments. Prepayment includes payments in advance for contingencies, S&T advances, petty cash advances relating to local and international travel, and other prepayments for subscription of staff to professional bodies, and the prepayments made to DBSA. A significant increase compared to prior year is due to the fact that we had to prepare DBSA to do the construction work. Based on the agreement with the DBSA, the agreement requires that Parliament makes prepayments to DBSA to facilitate the implementation of the project. The prepayments are recognized as an asset in the books, and they are reduced as the DBSA spends the money and provide the proof of spending. And those expenses are capitalized in the asset under construction once the spending has been done. Next slide, please. Cash and cash equivalent. We've got 1.2 billion. Last year we had 1.3 billion. Then the most amount that is there is mainly relates to the rebuilding funds that are going to be utilized, are being utilized in the 2025-26 financial year. Receivable from exchange is mainly relating to the interest income that is earned, that was accrual, expected to be received, that was earned in March from the rebuilding funds. Property, plant and equipment relating to furniture, equipment, motor vehicles, library books, and buildings under construction. The significant increase of 96% is mainly due to the capitalization of expenditures incurred under rebuilding as work in progress. Intangible assets, there is a decrease of 18% compared to prior year, due to the fact that there were less purchases, and then those are intangible assets that way they had to be amortized, depreciated, therefore the value is reducing. Heritage assets relates to artwork of Parliament and is recognized at costless impairment costs. There's no depreciation there. So there were no addition in the year, and there were no impairments, hence there is no change in the value of the assets. Finance lease obligation consists of cell phone, tablets, modem contracts, and laptops for members and staff. And laptops are mainly for members. The average lease term is for 2 years for cell phone and laptops for 3 years. The 75% increase is due to purchase of laptops for the new members after the establishment of 7 Parliament. Payable from exchange transactions, they decreased compared to the prior year by 11%, mainly due to strengthening the controls over the paying of service providers to ensure that we pay within 30 days of receiving the invoice of statement. Payable from non-exchange, this relates to the amounts that are owed for members with disability of political parties and transfers to political parties. The 12% decrease is due to less members with disability compared to the prior year that we're liable for. Statutory payable, this is the amount that we didn't spend on the budget for remuneration of members. The amount was surrendered to National Revenue Fund, the 21 million. Current employee benefits, we had 259 compared to the prior year of 396 million. Current employee benefits relate to short-term benefits owed to staff for service rendered, such as leave liability, salary saving their employees who will save their to request Parliament to keep certain percentage of their salary and they take it at year end. Long service hours, overtime work, that is paid in the following financial year. So these are the amounts that we owed at year end. The decrease is mainly due to decrease in leave and performance bonus provision compared to the prior year. Members' benefits, the balance for current balance is 134 million compared to 260 million of prior year. The decrease of 48% is mainly due to decrease in loss of office gratuity, as most gratuities were paid to members who exited Parliament as a result of general elections. Provisions, we had a provision of 1.5 million compared to 4 million of the prior year. The provision relates to legal cases where Parliament is liable to pay the costs. However, the bill of costs have not been received from Department of Justice. The amount is estimated based on Parliament's experience regarding the legal matters. The decrease of 64% was due to 10 payments of 3.5 that were made and some provision for prior being less than. From based on the experience of the legal team when they estimated we owed less on these matters compared to prior. Fruitless and wasteful expenditure increase was mainly due to the fraud case for the payment that was paid in April 2024. The matter is under investigation with SAPS, and also the Expenditure Advisory Committee is busy processing the matter and calling the colleagues to come and account to a part of the transaction. Irregular expenditure, there's no significant change from the prior year. The matters that were relating to irregular expenditure, mainly relating to doing the work without getting the prior approval when the scope is increasing. The matter is receiving attention at the Expenditure Advisory Committee. Also, we have strengthened the awareness sessions from supply chain side to ensure that colleagues are aware and what it means when you don't comply with the laws and regulations on procuring goods and services. It's not just about receiving the goods, but about the process you follow in getting those goods and services. Contingent liabilities, these are possible obligations pending claims against Parliament. If we lose, Parliament will be liable to pay. These are determined based on the experience of the legal colleagues and the state attorney. So the amount that is possible obligation is 17 million compared to the 25 million of the prior year. Next slide. So STP, this is the overall financial performance of Parliament. We've accounted for all the rebuilding expenditures. They were audited. There were no serious issues raised in the audit process. Thank you, STP. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Honorable Court Chairpersons. And we have concluded our presentation on the annual report. Thanks.
Thanks for the presentation, STP and the team. I now open questions, members to ask questions and discussions if there is any. STP, maybe before what they still, because I don't see the hands yet on the platform. STP, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Honorable. Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Yes. No, it's fine. STP, I've got two questions. On the transfer to non-profit organization, the report indicates the 0% variance, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, the one of the political parties. But if you look at on page 39, it shows that the budget was 571,725, and the expenditure is 569,972. That's number one. The second question is on page, yeah, I think it's on page 41, slide 41. I remember at one instance, one of the members was asking about the tablets. It was not replaced, or when he or she was applying for the new phone after 2 years. There was a serious challenge for her to receive the other gadget. I'm not sure it's a phone. So what I want to check with you, STP and the team, is after the member has, term, like after 2 year term for the cell phone, do you notify the member or how do you notify the member that now you have finished your 2 year term, 2 years to get a new cell phone or to come and apply for a new phone in their office? So what I'm asking is, how do you relate to the members? Because if it happened that the member was able to spend more than 2 years on the phone, whereas the policy says after 2 years for a cell phone, the member must get another new phone. So how do you communicate to the member? That is my two questions. I see two questions. They say I have the Badenhorst, the Honorable Clark, Honorable Badenhorst, Honorable Clark, Honorable Van Rooyen. Those are the two hands in that order. Honorable Feni. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think in that order. Honorable Badenhorst, Honorable Clark, Honorable Van Rooyen.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to put my video off because the bandwidth is not great, but there's proof of life. I am here and I'm alive.
Fine.
Thank you. Honourable Chair, thank you and good evening to everyone, and thank you for the presentations. I'm going to refer specifically to the 2024-25 annual report, and let me just jump straight into it because I know there's lots of questions to be asked and it's going to be a long evening. On page 176 of the annual report, there's a 407 million rand prepayment to the Development Bank of South Africa. So my question would be, why are we prepaying when the progress of rebuilding Parliament's been so slow? And why are we paying in advance without checking the actual work being done? Then on page 193 of the annual report, I would like to know, why is the Secretary to Parliament's exit gratuity disclosed in page 193, totaling 2.3 million rand, separate from the management remuneration note on page 202, where the SAP salary has been reduced to 5 million rand and excludes this amount, which was correctly disclosed in the previous year. On page 209, and I just want to refer to my notes here, I'm sorry, Chair, I see a commitment of 2.2 billion rand to the Development Bank of South Africa. How will this be honoured if we are spending the funds meant for the building on general operations and salaries of Parliament administration and personnel? And then my last question was, what was the budget amount given by National Treasury for the cost of employment, as previous years showed that we are underfunded for salaries by about 400 million rand, and the excess costs were paid from funds need to operate the members of Parliament and the daily operations. So how do we now get to a 7% underspending? That's all from me for now. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Badenhorst. Honorable Clark.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll put on my video so you can see that I'm not a bot, and I will switch off now. Thank you. Okay, in the report, they state the above, in terms of the objectives and recommendations was actually done in terms of implementation of state capture recommendations. What were the objectives and what are the concrete steps taken in terms of those recommendations? And then with reference to the fruitless and wasteful expenditure for the financial year under review, why were the losses incurred not recouped if the bank account was fraudulent? Were any engagements had with the bank or attempt to recoup by insurance? Because the bank does cover insurance if there's fraudulent activity on your account. And then what steps have been taken to deal with the supplier in that regard? Then this is the second year in a row that 7 million has been spent irregularly due to delegations of authority not being followed. Why was this not settled last year? What steps have been taken to remedy this? And are any consequence management steps being taken? And then lastly, why is the creditor payment period worsening? It does not seem to be as a result of checks and balances taking place. If one considers the wasted expenditure, it does not seem to be as a result of the checks and balances taking more time if one considers the wasted expenditures above. Thank you very much. I just couldn't read my handwriting there, that last one. Thank you so much.
Honorable Van Rooyen. Honorable Van Rooyen. We can hear you. I'm not sure if you are speaking wherever you are, but we can't hear anything, Honorable Van Rooyen. Honorable members, is there anyone who can hear Honorable Van Rooyen? Maybe the challenge is on my side.
No, we can't hear him.
Okay.
No, we can't hear him.
Honorable Van Rooyen, you have unmuted yourself, yes, but you are not audible. You are not audible. There's nobody who can hear you. Cindy?
Can you hear me now, Chairperson?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I think the problem is if my earpiece is fine.
Okay.
Let me start by welcoming the presentation by the AG. And of course, that was followed by the STP and the team. And secondly, I think I should commend our executive authority for ensuring that we, as Parliament, we continue to realize this clean audit. I think besides the clean audit, I went into the report share. I've noticed a trend of a major improvement for the past 3 years, and it's something that we need to commend. We can, as public representatives, I think we can't overlook such an important achievement, especially in light of bad performances and bad audit opinions that are realized in most of the government departments and entities. I think at least for now, one can safely say Parliament seems to be on course to ensure that they manage, the public finances allocated to Parliament appropriately. But what is also consoling, Chair, which I think as public representative must take note of, is remedial steps that are being taken by the administration to make sure that all the gaps that have been addressed or raised or highlighted by the AG are properly dealt with. And I think our role as public representatives is to make sure that we hold them accountable to their undertaking as captured in their remedial action plans. So I think we really appreciate the good work that that has been done, but we'll continue, of course, Chair, to exercise our robust oversight on areas where we feel that they need to do more, as emphasized by the AG, you know. So, Chair, allow me to start asking my questions then. The issue of the surplus investment, I mean, I want to say the surplus in the account. The AG said that there is a surplus that they've identified. I think we should talk more about this surplus. What constitutes the surplus? What does this mean? I mean, to the financial status or the financial health of the institution. I think we need to get more on this thing. We can't just hear the mention of a surplus and then we are not interested by what goes into it and what does that mean, I mean, to the financial status of the institution. And then secondly, Chair, I fully agree with the AG, and I think as a committee we resolve that as part of our responsibility to conduct appropriate oversight on this DBSA implementation plan, we should be obviously doing a physical site visit. I just want, because there was an undertaking in our previous deliberations that this will be done. I just want to check if maybe have we maybe been able to agree on the date of when will this be conducted, because we have seen the visual presentation, which was very impressive, but we agree that we need to follow that up with a physical site visit, because I can tell you now, you know, from time to time as we walk through the site, people pose questions as to how realistic is our target to complete the project. So I think going there to do a physical site visit will help us, I mean, to
This is what
answer.
I'm doing tomorrow. Let me just get to my calendar.
What's happening now?
Honorable Clerk, please can you mute yourself?
Thank you for the protection, Chair. So yeah, I think it will be important for us to get a confirmation of the date, so as we are able to conduct this important part of our oversight work. And then thirdly, Chair, the fraud case, I think the report seems not to be moving. The fraud case reported to our law enforcement agency, that is SAPS, we are still getting the same report. I'm not sure when last was the Parliament updated about the progress on this matter. It's important for us to be robust on getting the progress from SAPS, Chair, because we are all aware of the shenanigans that have been openly revealed within our law enforcement agency. So it's important that we are robust. Parliament is robust in terms of getting an update on how far is this matter, because we can't be getting the same report year in, year out. And there was a mention of a 7% underspending. I know at some stage we resolve as a committee that we'll get a breakdown of the payments and the salary scales and all that. But in this, the reasons of this 7% underspending, I think you are not citing anything to do with performance of employees or maybe failure to pay gratuity of employees. I'm referring here to employees' compensation, because you are stating that there was a 7% underspending on employees' compensation. I'm raising this chair and I'll continue to raise it because, if you know, Parliament had an unfortunate history recently where Labour nearly brought the functioning of Parliament to a standstill as a result of such issues. So it's our responsibility as public representatives to make sure that we are robust when we deal with such issues. So I hope, because in the presentation, no mention was made of performance bonuses, no mention was made of outstanding gratuity payment. I hope this 7%, it has nothing to do with those. As much as I know that at some stage we'll get a detailed presentation on this matter. And then lastly, Chair, can we get an explanation on, because there was no mention as to why we had to return, or Parliament had to return 21 million to the fiscus. I think there was no explanation as to why that happened. Can we just be provided with information as to why that happened? And obviously, we should also be knowing how to avoid the recurrence thereof. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks very much, Honorable Van. Maybe let me start by responding on this one.
No, Chair. No, Chair. You can't exclude me.
My apologies. I saw you have, I thought you have lowered your hand. My apologies, Honorable Feni. My apologies. Honorable Feni?
No, thanks, Chair. After you've noted me, I withdraw my hand, thinking that
okay.
Yes, no, thanks, Chair. Once again, let me greet the honorable members, also the office of the STP, and then the team that is with, and also the AG. So my Chair first is to appreciate first and foremost and welcome the reports presented to us, starting from the one of the AG, and then indeed I think the remarks are very important, by Honorable Speaker with regard to the presentation, that of the reports that were made, in highlighting the progress that have been made thus far, taking cognizance that this is an ongoing process of that we're dealing with. Indeed, reflecting on what Sixth Administration processes, and towards its finalization, and how have they managed to balance, the question of finances between, through the transition. Indeed, I think it is assisting us also, Chair, into looking into how to move forward, because we do not seventh administration exist in vacuum, but we are the continuation of what has been there. So it's important that we must appreciate indeed, thus far the work that has been done. Chair, I think it is energizing also to see how we are managing our finances in any institution. If you see, what has been reflected through our our financial statements by the reports, by the report of the AG, Chair, where at least there is improvement by getting the clean audit. Indeed, Chair, clean audit does not necessarily mean automatic that there is nothing in terms of your finances that is need not improvement. However, it tells us, in terms of the direction that we're taking, and also our financial status currently, how healthy we are in terms of those. So as an organization, Chair, I want to argue that it is indeed, upon us to appreciate it, and also as the AG have highlighted that when the AG look in terms of the quality of our annual financial statements, our key the key focus areas of audit, your financial statements, your performance information, and compliance, because what is critical, Chair, you might have all of these, other issues, but if you are doing, your particular responsibility, undermining the rule of law, Chair, that becomes a problem. In our instance, Chair, we can stand bold to say, at least our financial, statement does comply with the relevant laws and regulations. It tells you that at least the monies that, the taxpayers' monies that as members, we are looking at least are in good hands. They are not being spent recklessly, taken for granted that at the end of the day we must be accountable. Which therefore means, Chair, I want to say that I cannot, treat that as not as a non-issue, but something that must be improved indeed as we're moving towards 2024. 25, 26. Instead of being regressing, Chair. So I think on that particular aspect, Chair, I want to once again welcome the reports indeed. Also on the question of how the STP have managed to build, because in most cases your labor relations in our institutions become so sour that it affects the whole operations, of the institution. I want to encourage you, STP, to say that where you are currently in terms of the environment or harmonization of the environment, as highlighted in the report, I think you need to move further, in order for your labor relations, your labor force to feel more being part of the institution, rather than to take themselves as just mere, service providers of the institution, but as part of the institution. So I want to encourage you to say, let's continue with that, harmonization relations term. That there is an issue here that, in fact, that we need to strengthen, our systems and to the one of supply chain, Chair, because our supply chain process management, Chair, as highlighted by the AG, needs a closer look, Chair, and then ensure that we are following the supply chain, the processes when we want to get services, because in most cases that's where things are going astray or taking a direction that's supposed not to be going. You allow a process to arrive at its conclusion, a contract, specifically contract, and then instead of following the procurement processes, you take decision on you take the decision of procuring on an agent basis. Therefore it will need deviations, and deviations sometimes they might be legal, but not always they are legal, especially if they have been highlighted in previous years that if you are not improving in this direction, then you're going to have something, then it's going to affect now your audit outcome. I think we need to put more emphasis and put our system in place. Chair, on the question of the question of this fraudulent payment, Chair, I think as we have highlighted also on our, I think I agree with Honorable Van Rooyen that I think that there was a process that we have agreed on in order to ensure that this matter is concluded, Chair, rather than to be getting continuous and lamenting on same issue that was highlighted and clarified that this is what have happened and this is the process that have been highlighted. I think it's not the first time I agree with Honorable Van Rooyen, but what we need to do, I think we need to arrive at a conclusion of the matter as we agree. We take it to where it's supposed to be taken, as we agreed in our previous, stating that where it's supposed to be deliberated and then concluded. However, the current process, your security processes that is taking place must continue, your investigation, your SEBs and so on. I think I don't foresee any crisis with regard to that. However, fraud is fraud. It's serious as it is. Other members are highlighting, but it must take the particular direction that it's supposed to be taking, so that we do not. Because also AG have highlighted also that this is the matter that was identified in a previous financial year. Then the matter of emphasis again, I'm not sure, for instance, now as to whether is it making a difference now to re-emphasize it on it again, or the status is still the same as we have as it was reported, and we get a report on that particular financial. So on that one, I think Chair, I want us to go to that level. Chair, also I think we must appreciate our performance as highlighted by SDP, both houses, your NA and NCOP, in terms of, for instance, the bills that we have managed to pass, and not just any bills, but progressive bills that we've managed to pass as the seventh administration term. It tells you that the question of transformation, seventh Parliament is taking serious and further, by ensuring that necessary legislation are being put in place in order for the transformative agenda to continue unhindered, with these necessary bills that we have managed to pass them into law, even though that we sometimes contradict, we sometimes oppose abusing your judicial system on something that we have been complied with as members through necessary processes that we unfolded your participation, and then once we are defeated on those processes, we run to courts, and in order to delay, I think we must also take blame as members, if we are not achieving the necessary targets in terms of these bills, because it's us who go out when we're defeated in terms of the processes of Parliament. We go out and delay the progress, in the courts of law. So I wanted to check that. The question that I wanted to check, man, is around the question of Eastern Cape. I think is Eastern Cape legislator that received unqualified, and then it was, I think it influenced Lepombo that also regressed, but I didn't hear whether it's in terms of this financial year, the Eastern Cape, whether it's this financial year or a previous year that these two legislatures, their audit outcomes were not good. So I just wanted to get that. So far, I think I will stop there, Chair. I will come back later for further engagement.
Thanks, Honourable Mani, and again, my apologies, Honourable Mani. My key, it was not intentional. Before STP can respond, I want to only to respond on one thing to Honourable Van Ryan. There was a message on our group chat yesterday at around 11:27 about the oversight. I think the date is out, is on the 5th of November, where we'll be doing the oversight. The committee will be doing oversight. And I think the Nhlanhla is also communicating with members, because there are other issues that members has to confirm, like your size of the booths and all those things. So the date is out, Honourable Van Ryan, on the issue of oversight.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And STP and EA, can you clarify? I think the questions have been, you have noted all the questions. STP?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. I will share the responses with my colleagues that work in different areas. We will start with the questions you have raised, Chairperson, and Ms. Linda Harper, who does membership support, will clarify the issue of the cell phone changes, and also the issue of the losses for the CPA. It's a matter that honorable members will recall. Indeed, we reported previous time. And because it requires a dual-pronged approach, there's an internal dimension of looking into the matter, which means parliamentary investigation, what went wrong. And then there's an external dimension. And the external dimension relates to the matter being prima facie criminal. There was a fraudulent intent. So the law enforcement of our country deals with that. So we reported to the Hawks. They came and took all the information they needed, including access to some of the devices they wanted to, and they are still seized with that matter. We are making follow-ups on them on the aspect of the criminal investigation. On the internal part, we are doing our investigation, and there's a structured process where once a matter becomes irregular and or fruitless, it goes through a governance assurance committee of Parliament that certifies all cases once it is fully investigated. So officials that play that role in the management of accounts are currently accounting to that committee. And once the report is concluded, it will then be presented to the accounting officer to make a determination on those matters, and thereafter report to the executive authority on all the cases. The matter of the 7 million pertains to the BRICS summit we had, and that matter again is under investigation. It started in the prior year. That's why it still remains in this year until the matter is concluded. It has already served in the Governance Assurance Committee, and they have deliberated in the matter, I think, around May. And once the processes are concluded, the process will follow the similar submission report around condonation, if there's justification, around remedial action of consequence for those employees, if it warrants that, and or recovery of the matter. And that's the report we are duty bound by FMPLA to submit to EA once we have taken all the necessary measures. So it is not a matter that is not attended to in our internal dimension. However, for law enforcement, we are bound to await for their conclusion on the matter. Is it money that is insurable? And on our side, it is not money that we have insured. And also neither the bank. Most of the time, the banks takes into account if the matter has been proven that they have been negligent on their side. But if they pay money on an account that they have been given under the belief that's a correct account, then different processes have to take place. So the amount involved was 1.1 million rand. And we are looking at both dimensions of investigation. On the issue of the DBSA, it is governed by contractual obligations in terms of the implementation agreement that we presented to the Joint Standing Committee. In the previous meeting, we outlined all the governance processes. All of the members will recall that we were asked that we must not club it with the progress on the rebuild. Can we deal with the governance arrangements? And we had a full presentation on the governance. It regulates when payments can be made, if it's a tranche, and in what form that tranche would be utilized, and what it will be accounted for before Parliament releases another tranche in terms of prepayment. So it is a fast-track project in terms of the nature, and that is governed by that. The CFO will then respond to the specific obligations we have in that regard, and or the chief legal advisor, should it be necessary to add. And I would like the issue of the surplus to be responded to by the acting CFO, and any other matters that pertain to the disclosures in the financial statements. So Linda, and then thereafter Namonde.
Good evening, Madam Speaker, co-chairs, and members. According to our records, all upgrades of equipment for members are currently up to date. We do proactively advise members when the upgrades are due, and we give them a selection of devices from which they can choose. In terms of Q1, we had 26 new orders and 4 upgrades, and in Q2, 33 new orders and 123 upgrades. Thank you.
Thanks, STP. There was a question on transfers to political parties that we presented 0%. However, there's an amount there not spent. The amount not spent, when you translate to percentage, is 0%, but the amount was 1.7 million. The amount relates to amount that was not paid to one of the political parties that didn't submit the financial statements in line with the policy. So in terms of the policy, if you don't submit the required document and financial statements of the prior year, we don't pay, we hold the funds until you submit. So that was the basis of that 1.7 million. And then the STP covered the prepayments. The prepayments are paid because DBSA awarded to Rubex for the building, and they took possession of the site in April. There is proper recon and balancing on the prepayments, because work can't happen, the service provider can't work without us giving the prepayments. It's in terms of the agreement. Once the spending is done, DBSA submit the supporting documents, which our project team review and reconcile and confirm before they are processed and reduce the prepayments. So there are controls over that prepayment payments. In terms of, there was a question on page 193 of the annual report on the gratuity, why it's only disclosed there and not disclosed in the note of related parties as it was disclosed in the prior year. When we were preparing the financial statements, we identified that was incorrectly disclosed in the prior year in the note of related parties, because the standard GRAP 20 para 35 requires that we disclose amounts paid to key managers, not the liabilities. So where the liability is sitting, that liability was disclosed even in the prior year, so it's consistent, the liability, and it's disclosed in terms of the GRAP 19, in terms of the GRAP 25, in terms of the non-current employee benefits. So not disclosing it, note 35, it was audited, and we disclosed in the prior correction note the details of why the correction was made. Sorry, Chair, there was a question on commitments on the rebuilding. I didn't get the question. I just heard about commitments. So I'm not sure what was the issue on the commitments on the rebuilding. And then there was a question on the cost of employment. What is the budget? Because we're talking about underspending, but we've been indicating that we are underfunded. Indeed, we are underfunded. Had we only spent what was allocated by National Treasury for the year, we would have overspent, because the allocation for remuneration of employees was 939 million. So we had to augment the budget with the retained earnings of the prior year and taking from goods and services. Hence, there was 7% not spent on terminations. And then STP covered the issue of losses recouped. We did also on the case of the fraud. We did write to the captain to check the status on the case on the 7th of October, but we haven't got an update how far they are from their side. But we did write to the police to ask how far they are, because from Parliament side, we provided all the information that they required from Parliament. Creditors' payment days, creditors have reduced compared to last year. In the prior year, the balance was 74 million, but in the current year, it's 66 million. So we are strengthening the controls to ensure that service providers are paid in time. In terms of the surplus that was referred by AG, it's mostly relating to the underspending on the rebuilding. And those funds will be utilized in the 2025-26 because the service providers are awarded for the main construction of the rebuilding. And then there was a question, why did we return the 21 million to National Treasury? We return the amount in terms of, we are required by the Act, Section 23, 3 of FMPPLAA. That amount is for remuneration of members and payment of loss of office and exit gratuities. It's a direct charge. So when we didn't spend, we are required, we are obligated by the Act to return it. Hence, we return the funds. Same as when we overspend, they pay us back. In the prior year, you saw that there was a 71 million statutory receivable. Treasury owed us that amount because we paid more in the prior year. So we received that money back. So when we have underpaid, we have to pay it back. We're obligated by the Act. I think I've covered. Also, there was a question on the underspending of 7%. If we took into account the performance bonuses for employees, in note 15, there is performance bonus provision for payment of performance bonuses. The provision is made for the financial year based on the work and services rendered by the employees, but is paid in the following financial year. So those payments will happen in the 2025-26 financial year. Thank you, STP.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and we would like to, through you, if there's any addition from the Executive Authority.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Just to respond on the issue that was raised regarding the state capture recommendation, I want to remind members again that after the Zondo Commission, there were recommendations that were made that related to what the legislature, as in Parliament, ought to do. And those had been sent to various committees for processing as they relate to those specific committees. So committees will decide that in this current year, these are the recommendations we are going to address, and then they would deal with those, and if they have concluded on them, they will indicate as such. So that's what that relates to, Honorable Chairperson. Otherwise, we'd like to thank members for having, as well as the Auditor General, for the work that has been done and the issues that were raised by members, which we have responded to, and we will continue to. Chair, I'm sorry. There's an issue that Honorable Baden will keep on putting on the platform. Unfortunately, they don't give us enough time to be able to know what his questions are because they quickly get removed. So I just wanted to thank the members for the issues that they've raised and the continuous support that this committee is giving us in the work that we have to do. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, our speaker and the STP and the team. I'm not sure if there is any questions from honorable members that the Honorable Badenhorst and Honorable Desmond Ryan.
Thank you, Chair. Now, I just wanted to allude to what the speaker has mentioned. The person who answered my question said that she didn't get the question about the 2.2 billion rand to commitment. So I just put that question in the chat box so that they could pick the question up, and I see it's been noted and it'll be answered. Just on the response on the STP exit gratuity, it's noted that it's now correctly displayed the 2.3 million rand that he's going to get as the exit gratuity, separate from his remuneration. The remuneration is 5 million rand. We still don't know what that remuneration of 5 million rand includes. Does it include drivers, bodyguards, extra allowances? So I've asked for a meeting about this right in the beginning of this term. And I still maintain that we have to have a meeting to discuss this issue because it needs to be discussed. Thank you very much.
Honorable Van Rijn.
Hi, Chair, can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Chair?
I can hear you.
For that. No, mine is on a lighter note, Chair. You know, tomorrow the Parliament Golf Club will be hosting one of the 2 annual events, and the Speaker initially confirmed that she will be addressing Parliament golfers and their guests. And unfortunately, we received a notice that she is no longer going to address them. So I just wanted to know that we are somehow disappointed, but we understand the hecticness of their schedule. We hope that in future she will be able to honor our event as golfers of Parliament. Thank you very much.
Our Speaker, please don't disappoint. You made the commitment earlier. Honorable Feni?
Sorry, Chair.
No, thanks, Chair.
Yes, Honorable, I've noted you.
No, mind, Chair. I think is on the note that was raised by Honorable Badenhorst. I think his approach in terms of whatever clarity that he seeks to have, I think that the tone of the matter, Chair, is too suggestive of something that is blaming the STP on his salary on the amount of 5 million. I believe that there is a process that he's supposed to understand, to follow, if there is any clarity that he needs with regard to the remuneration of the STP, not to expect STP, especially if the information has been provided, if he is not satisfied with the information that is provided by the STP, to take, the matter further, but not the way that he's responding. He's raising that it is disgusting. I don't think that it's parliamentary to use such language there. Thanks.
Thanks, Honorable Feni. Honorable Dakmo. Honorable Des, before Honorable Dakmo, Honorable Des, see your hand. Is it a legacy hand?
Oh, sorry, Chair. It's a legacy.
Thank you. Honorable Dakmo.
No, Chair. I'd also just wanted to join those other members in, expressing, and I'm sure you will do it as our co-chair, thanks to, the Executive Authority, the STP and the staff and the Auditor General. It's a number of years now that we've maintained a clean audit, and I think, it's a very good example for Parliament to be setting. So I just wanted to join those, and then also just through you say to Honourable Van Rooyen that they shouldn't keep these golf days a secret. There are some of us who didn't even know that there's a golf day, but thanks for the information.
Thanks very much. Honourable members, there are other matters that we have discussed earlier, and then we agreed that we are going to have a special day to speak about, or there will be response on that matter. So there is a document here. I think all of you have got it, which written the additional information response to the Joint Standing Committee on Financial Management. This will be discussed on the meeting of the 12th. I think it is now will be proper for all our members to go through it. Some of the answers that Honorable Badenhorst is also looking for are also in this document. So once we respond to the issues in piecemeal, it's not going to assist us. So the purpose of today's meeting was focused on the AG and the annual report of the Executive Authority and the Secretary to Parliament and the team. So I think, honourable members, I just wanted to clarify you on the additional document that has been circulated, which is written additional information. It has got all the issues that you have been asking for, but it will be further discussed on the 12th of November on that meeting, on the physical sitting. So I think I just wanted to make it clear in that regard. I now going to allow the co-chair, Lekanyane, to say something. Honorable Des.
Chair, I don't know if I understand your summary to be suggesting that the meeting of the 12th will be discussing additional issues that were raised in our previous meeting, which were responded to by or the STP and the team. Because my understanding is that the meeting of the 12th, we are going to deal with HR-related things, payments, scales, and all those things. So this one is it's like people ask questions and the administration responds. So we need to be careful that we don't mix these items. But that doesn't mean per your discretion, if members want to raise issues on the response that have been shared by STPs and the team, they shouldn't raise them on the 12th. But I just wanted to caution that the meeting on the 12th it got its own special agenda item. So let's be careful how we approach that meeting. Thank you.
Honorable Van Rooyen, what I'm saying is the items that were on the agenda are the one that we are dealing with. There is another document here that was for information. It's for notice. So we do not going to dwell on that. It's for information that will also be if there's any other things that members want to raise. Here today we're focusing on the items on the agenda. That is the report, the briefing by the AG and the briefing by the Auditor General, and I mean briefing by the AG and briefing by the Secretariat, and also the Executive Authority. So this additional document is the one that we have been asking for. So members are now being able to be receiving this information so that we can go through it on the 12th. That's where we'll be able to discuss any other issues. So today's meeting was focusing on these two items. Honorable Lekanyane. Do you want to say something? I know you said you are not feeling well, but I heard your voice earlier when we started with the meeting. So I didn't want to close you out, my co-chair. Okay.
Chair?
I'm told today the speaker's got okay.
Yes, Chair. I was just going to ask our acting CFO to once again just clarify the issue of 2.2 billion that was raised by Honorable Badenhorst. And then I will summarize at the end.
Okay, CFO.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Chairperson. The commitment for rebuilding, the question is how are we going to honor it if we're spending on operations? The only amount that was taken from rebuilding, it's only 124 million. And it was not just taken, it was taken through consultative and agreement with National Treasury to augment the pressures on the operation. And they committed to augment that amount as we demonstrate ability to spend on the rebuilding. And in the 2025-26, we had further engagements with National Treasury where they committed to fund this amount to ensure that we pay the service providers to do the work. We are managing the rebuilding funds. We're not just spending it on operations. There was a thorough assessment and engagement with National Treasury before we could utilize the 124 million. They indicated in the prior year, the processes of engagements were closed. They couldn't fund Parliament for the pressures, noting that we established the 7 parliaments and there was agreement that we utilize that 124 million. So that was the only amount taken from that. We are transparent with the rebuilding funds and how they are spent. Thank you. Chairperson.
Thank you very much.
There's a hand of Honorable Baden was speaking. Can we hear what Honorable Baden would like to say? Honorable Baden was.
Much appreciated. I'm sorry to interrupt, Speaker, before you close or give closing remarks, but it's really important the answer I've just received in that question. So we are Parliament, and there are legal processes. So I just want to know what legal processes was followed to actually move that amount to operational expenditure. Did we pass a money bill in Parliament? I know we are 2 separate houses, so maybe something happened at the NA that I don't know about. So how did the Executive Authority actually move that money from capex to operational without an instrument within Parliament? So thank you very much. I just need guidance on that. Thank you very much.
I hope in your closing remark, Honourable Speaker, you will also respond to that.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Members. I just want to indicate that the amount that is being referred to was not a new appropriation. We do have processes, as Honourable Badenhorst indicates, that allows for virement. But even before that virement was done, it followed a consultation meeting between ourselves and Treasury, where Treasury acknowledged that because of the pressures and what they had not funded in the previous year and the transition, they therefore gave an indication that we can make a virement from the building fund to the operations, and they would augment that amount in the appropriations appropriately. So that is the explanation. So in terms of the legal process, yes, that was followed as it is provided for in law. Were the consultations and agreement with Treasury? Yes, it's there in writing and minuted. So I think that would clarify the issue raised by Honourable Badenhorst. Just to say on a lighter note, indeed, Honourable Van Rooyen, I'm also very hurt that I could not honor as I had initially indicated, but there are matters beyond my control which are family related that meant I have to excuse myself for that commitment on the golf course. But I will send a message of support because for our wellness processes, this is a very important, area which we support as Parliament so that our members remain active, not only in terms of our work, but also their bodies must also be active so that they have a healthy mind in a healthy body. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, honourable members. Let me take this opportunity to thank the AG and Parliament for their availability to present to the Parliament for 2024-2025 performance. Your cooperation is always appreciated. Honourable members, especially to the AG, we will follow up on the risk management strategies to ensure that past challenges are addressed. I want to also thank the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Deputy Chief Whip, and the co-chair present here, the AG. Thank you very much. Honourable members, thanks very much. And to the
Honourable Chair, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Serious?
No, we can hear you. I can hear you.
I can hear you too, Honourable Chair.
You can proceed, yeah.
I can.
Maybe it's because when I was about to talk about the golf club, because the speaker's got a guilty conscience of not honoring the promise. So now I was about to just indicate that to the golf club, have a beautiful day tomorrow. And honourable members, thanks very much for your participation. Indeed, it was a really informative meeting, and thanks very much. The meeting stands adjourned. Honourable Speaker, you'll hear me. I'll send you the recording.
Thank you.